Good morning. This morning, I want to talk about a non diet topic. It sort of. And the reason I say sort of is because I think your number one spot you need to look at in any kind of health journal, whether it be weight loss or mental health or physical health or financial health or whatever journey you're on, the most important thing to work on is your mind. What's going on inside your control central? So, the number one, I think, now other people think it's different, but I honestly, truly believe weight gain, poverty, and so forth has more to do with what's going on in your mind, going into your brain, than what's going into your wallet or your stomach, what's going into your house, what's going on into your life, what is going into your brain. So that's what I want to look at today. And I want to start with, who are you? I love to write. That's one of the things I do. I haven't wrote anything formal. I haven't wrote anything organized. I just have tablets and notebooks around me all the time, and I jot down stuff a lot, all the time. Nothing that can be pieced together for anybody other than just, I enjoy putting words down on a piece of paper. That's what I do. That does not define who I am. And I want to look at that today. I want to look at that pretty deeply. And I challenge anyone with issues to look at that. Because what you do and what you have can change in a blink of an eye. When I lost my businesses, I was in a very severe depression. I talked about that. I failed at business. And the words kept going through your head. Condi, you're a failure. That's not healthy. That's what I did. Was not who I was. Whether or not you succeed at something or whether you fail at something, that does not define who you are. That was just an occupation. And if you lose that occupation for one reason or another, that does not change who you are. There are so many different things that can play into it. Even if your occupation gets changed due to a mistake you made, all that really means is that you're human. And everybody on this planet is human. It does not make you a failure. You are not the failure. Because then this planet would be just overrun with failures, and who really wants to be there? Because nobody has got this perfection thing down. What you own does not define you. Whether you drive a Jaguar or a jalopy is not your identity. So if you have a nice car, or in my case, a nice house, and you lose it, that does not make you a failure. It doesn't make you a victim unless you choose to be. It's just a thing. And that's going to be very hard for some people to hear, who has all their identity wrapped up in what they've accomplished and what they've bought, what they own. But that is such a very fragile stage to stand on, when really your true identity is what's inside you, not anything on the outside. So when I became divorced, and it was not a good scene that led to the divorce, but when I became divorced, for 20 years before, I had established my identity as a wife and a mother. My children were growing. My oldest at that time was 19 and my youngest was 13. And I had two in the middle. I had one that was a senior in high school and one that was a junior in high school at the time. And a 13-year-old. So I was faced with a hard reality of, I don't know who I am. For all these years, I was a mom and a wife. And now I'm no longer a wife. And my role as a mom is changing drastically. And what do I have? Who do I have? I knew that to cling to those children was not healthy for them. I knew that. But I was scared to let them go because that was my identity. That's who I was. So I was faced with the challenge because, like I said, I like to write. And that challenge was, you're on a deserted island. Nobody else is there with you. Who's on that island? You can't say a mother because the children aren't there with you. You can't say a wife because you're alone. You can't say you're a good friend because that identity is based on people around you, not yourself. Who are you? Who's on that island? I looked at my blank computer screen and notebook for 3 days in tears because I had no clue who I was. No clue. Nobody is an empty shell. Nobody needs anything on the outside to define who they are on the inside. Nobody. And what you do is nothing more than a choice. Nothing more, nothing less. You make good choices, you make bad choices, and it is nothing more. The number on the scale does not define who you are. The food you put in your mouth does not define who you are. The choices you make, the successes you make in life does not define who you are. And your failures do not define who you are. I live in Tornado Alley. I live right smack in the middle of Kansas. If you look at a map, I am just about right in the center of the state, right in the middle of Tornado Alley. I could have the most perfect house, and I could have it full of the most perfect stuff. And in March, an F5 comes through and blows it all away. That does not change who I am. You meet people who are so attached to their things, like they're trophies of what they've accomplished. But do they really understand who they are inside? The things that do define you, that make you you, are things that you're going to have to decide for yourself. For me, that assignment, I allowed myself to get quiet, just quiet everything down. And I thought, I'm by myself on that deserted island. What does that look like? To have nobody else around me. What would that be like? I have nobody else to turn to, nobody else to lean on, nobody else to prove they love me by doing things for me, or nobody else that I can prove I love them by doing things for them. Nobody. What does that look like? And I allowed myself to think, how did I get to that island? And I am creative. I am pretty darn imaginative. So the first thing I did is imagine, well, first you had to get to that island. And I imagined a cruise, the Titanic. And it went down. And come sharks or anything else, I was going to make it to that island. No matter what. No matter how tired I was going to keep swimming. No matter what, I was going to get to that island. I was going to survive. Number one, in my who am I? I'm a survivor. Because even when I was imagining that, and I imagined in the heat and the sun and the salt water, and I could see that island, I was, by golly, going to get there. And I paddled and I swam and I did everything I could to get there. And I got there. I am deep down in my gut, I'm a survivor. And that was one of my biggest cling tos. Through everything, that was one of the things I clung to when I had my exit plan that I talked about. It's like, no, I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor. I had it. I didn't write it down because I didn't want anybody to see it. But I had it. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I was in that ocean in May. up until May. From November to May, I was in that ocean and I was paddling, and there were sharks, and that sun was beating down. And for other people that may not equate to that, everyone else has their shipwreck. That was mine. And then I thought, well, now that I'm on this island, what am I going to do to continue surviving? I didn't do any good to kill my muscles and stuff to get to this island. So I put that survivor into my emotional treasure chest, and I allowed myself to imagine and daydream about me on that island. And I knew in order to survive, you need water, you need fresh water. And I imagined myself looking around, and in my island, there were coconut trees. So I found coconuts, and I found things that was going to give me food and water. And then I imagined myself finding ways to build shelter. Well, if you have food, water, and shelter, you can survive. So I stepped back out of my daydream, and I thought, well, what does that mean? Pretty resourceful, Condi. You figured it out. You knew that you needed water, and you knew that you needed to look for it. And just because there wasn't a tap in the kitchen to go to, you found substance. It's pretty darn smart, and that's pretty resourceful. You found it, you did it. So I put resourceful in my treasure chest, emotional treasure chest. Now I'm a survivor, and I'm resourceful. The assignment said find 3. So I'm like, well, I already beat this. So, I'm here, I'm by myself. I got here, I created an environment I can survive in. But am I going to go insane while I'm here by myself? Kind of castaway. And then I started imagining, not the volleyball, because, well, I'm not Tom Hanks, but I started imagining, because I like to write, just sitting there on the beach with a stick writing in the sand. Just imagine the peaceful and quiet. And I started thinking about my daydreams, and I'm like, you're pretty darn creative to come up with all this. You were able to create this whole scenario. And I put creativity in my emotional treasure chest. Some other people, they might have different things they put in there. Now, if you choose to do that little challenge, which I thought was so healthy for me that I would encourage everyone to look at that. Keep one thing in mind. It's not about other people. You're alone in that scenario. So if you are thinking, I'm a giver, that doesn't count unless you're willing to give to yourself, because you're alone. There's nobody to give to. If you think your identity is, I love, Unless you're willing to love yourself, you can't put that there because there's nobody else to give that love to. You are alone. You are by yourself. It's just you and Jesus. And yes, you can love Jesus. But how do you love Jesus? By loving yourself. That's not prideful. That's not arrogant. You're not being defined by the house you live in, the cars you drive, or the value of any of it. You're not being defined by being a business owner successfully or non-successfully. That's not your definition. You're not defined by the spouse you chose or the children you raised. That's not your identity. Those are your accomplishments. And they need to be two different categories. They really do. Because first, if you're not well, emotionally, mentally, you are not going to be well physically. It all plays together. We are the total of the sum of physical health, mental health, and emotional health. And when one of them is not correct, none of them will be. You need to identify who you are. And it's a hard look sometimes. It's not easy. I knew someone who was struggling with mental health issues. And this someone was in the hospital and was in therapy, was in counseling. And that counselor says, you need to accept that you are bipolar. This someone that I know said, stop. No, I am not bipolar. Yes, I am fighting that battle, but do not put that into my identity. This person said to their therapist, if I had cancer, you would not tell me that I am cancer. I am, and then gave her name. That is who I am. I am not bipolar. This person was not in denial. She was just not willing to put that into her identity. It was her battle, not her identity. How many times do we say, I am a chocolate addict? I am fat. I am a doctor. I am a business owner. I am, when really, is that your identity? It's like, it's false. So let's use football. It's like a football player. They're on a field. They are playing football. That football is the tool that they use to get to the goal of the end zone. That does not make them a football. They play the sport. Their identity, some of them's going to hang on to the winning trophies and the state rings and everything as their identity, but was that their identity? Or was that just their accomplishment? Wasn't their identity the work ethic that got them to their trophy? And even if something happens and that trophy gets blown off to the next county because of a tornado went through, did they lose that work ethic? Did they lose that ability? No. They just lost the trophy. And that's no big deal. Really is no big deal. My uncle had Down syndrome. And he had a wall full of trophies in his room from Special Olympics. He loved his athletics. He loved to run. Yeah, that became quite a thing at the end of his life before he got real bad, but he loved to run. He loved to swim. Those are things he loved to do. It didn't change him into a fish. Nothing could change my Uncle Donnie. He was a gentle spirit. His identity was in his gentleness. His identity was in his sense of humor. His identity was not in anything he accomplished, was not in the trophies. And when he got Alzheimer's, he didn't lose his identity. He was still Uncle Donnie. He wasn't able to run anymore. He wasn't able to swim anymore. But he was still my Uncle Donnie. It wasn't his identity. It was his accomplishments. And to me, that trophy on the wall had no more significance than when he used to cling my clock every time we tried to play checkers. That boy was vicious. It wasn't his accomplishments that made him who he was. It was what was in his heart. And when he was unable to do the things that built him that accomplishment, he didn't lose his identity. He didn't lose his heart. What's your identity? Who are you? Do you do things for you because you love yourself? Because you have desires to make you a better you? Or are you so busy trying to fix it, take care of everything around you? Do you put yourself first? Or are you afraid to because of some misconception that makes you arrogant and prideful, which it does not. I will say it over and over and over again. It does not make you selfish to love yourself first. It does not make you unwell to love yourself first. It does not make you arrogant, prideful, or anything to take care of yourself first. You must take care of yourself first. You must. Because otherwise, you have nothing. You have nothing. You know, you must reach and identify yourself. outside and apart from other people. You must. If you have nobody to love you back, it does not change who you are. If you have a raging fire, flood, tornado, whatever, to destroy everything that you worked for and collected, that does not change who you are. If you walk away from a career, it does not change who you are. If you lose your career, your job, your employment, it does not change who you are. And if your spouse dies or leaves, it does not change who you are. Nothing, not a single thing outside your own heart, mind, and spirit has the ability to define you or to create you or to destroy you. That all comes from inside. That all comes from loving yourself and identifying who you are deep down. And it can even get bigger than that by changing what you say. Because you're only going to hear what you hear. So if you say things like, I am, and then identify yourself with something outside, like, I am an alcoholic, I am a chocoholic, I am fat, I am rich, I am a nurse, I am a doctor, I am a mom, then that takes everything that is outside of you and places it as your identity. And it's not. It's not, it's mislabeling. I have to work on that myself because I'm always I aming myself to a place I shouldn't be. I am depressed. No, I'm not. That's not my identity. I am Condi. And I am a survivor. And I am worthy to be taken care of. And I am the only person on this planet responsible for taking care of me. I am valuable. I am cute as snot, even with my broken front tooth. I am a little bit obsessed with that too. So pardon me. Don't watch these videos and assume I'm comfortable with that. I'm not. But I am Condi. Who are you? Who are you? And I am worth taking care of myself. I am of value. And as someone of value, I will take care of myself. And that's the first step. It's like my weight loss surgeon said, and I've quoted him before. Your number one weight loss organ is the one between your ears, not the one in your belly. Weight loss surgery removed 80% of my stomach, the organ. And yes, I lost weight, but I did not change my my willingness to value myself over the value of those potato chips and mashed potatoes and bread and French fries and corn chips and oh man. I value myself enough to take care of myself. Not because of anything I've done, not because of anything I have, not because of anybody outside who loves me, but because I have value and worth, and every single body on this planet has value and worth. It is not a sin. It is not arrogance. It is not pride. It is not anything negative to take care of yourself first. You must. Your number one responsibility is to take care of yourself first. Because if you don't, then you can't take care of anybody else. If you don't take care of yourself first, and love yourself first, in order for you to continue sucking in air, then somebody else has to take care of you. And then you've just given all your power that you need, you just give it to an external force. And that is not a healthy place to be. It's not somebody else's job to keep you happy or make you happy. It's not somebody else's job to take care of you. It's your job. It's not your job to make somebody else happy. It's not your job. It's not your responsibility. It's not your responsibility to make somebody else healthy. It's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to make yourself healthy. And if you're raising children, you know what your responsibility is? By teaching your children how to take care of themselves. Isn't that what you teach them? You teach them how to speak from the time they're little. You teach them how to ask for what they want. You teach them how to walk. You teach them how to dress themselves. You're teaching them how to tie their own shoes. You're teaching them how to solve their own problems. That's your job as a parent, is to teach your children how to become independent. You're teaching them how to be healthy. And the number one way child learns is by watching you. So if you are not living a healthy lifestyle, you're not taking care of yourself, you're not eating right, you're not, you're expecting your children to constantly make you happy, you're expecting your spouse to always make you happy, and you're expecting, that's what you're teaching your children to do and be. It's not healthy. It's not healthy. That doesn't mean You're blockading yourself away from everybody else. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is by taking care of yourself, by being healthy about how you identify yourself, by loving yourself first, you're more able to give healthy love to somebody else. There is no valor, and I know people have this. I gave my last dollar to someone so and so, and that's not healthy. No. Because if you only had $1 left and you end up with no food because you gave your last dollar to somebody on the street, then isn't that implying that you're done? There's no heroism in that. I gave my last bite of food to. Now, I'm a giver. That's one of the things that I enjoy doing. I enjoy giving. It makes me happy. It's not the core of who I am. I'm going to say that again. I enjoy giving. I am a giver, but that is not the core of who I am. I give. I don't even have to know the person to give them something. It makes me happy, so I do it. But if I don't have it to give, I don't feel guilty. I don't feel less of me. I don't feel anything. It doesn't change who I am. It's just what I do. Someone else may not be a giver. They may not think that way. That doesn't make them less or more, because it's not their core definition. It's what they do or don't do. You think that way or you don't think that way. It's individual. And everybody doesn't have to do it. Because that's not what the world's about. Sometimes I go to the McDonald's drive-thru. Not very often now that I'm keto. Once in a while I will go get a Diet Coke or a salad. And if I have it, if I have extra money, I'll tell the clerk at the window, let me pay for the car behind me. If I don't have it, I won't do it. And if I don't have it and I don't do it, I don't feel like I change my identity. Because it's just what I do, not who I am. So if you're killing yourself to take care of somebody because you feel like that's what you do, and that's what you're supposed to do, and that's what you have to do, it's not. You're not being fair. You're not being fair to the person you're taking care of, and you're not being fair to yourself. Same thing if you're in a bad relationship Whether, if you're in a toxic relationship, whether it's with your children or your spouse or your parents or the neighbor, and it's unhealthy and it's full of negativity, you're not doing anybody any favors by sticking with it. Because you're not taking care of yourself. You must take care of yourself first. And this went long because this is pretty powerful stuff. And until you do, till you realize you have value in and of yourself and separate from anybody around you, no matter who it is, they do not define who you are. What you own does not define who you are. What you have accomplished does not define your identity. Just like losing it does not end your identity. It is so much deeper. And when you learn your true value, then taking care of yourself will just be second nature. And it is a process. And I'm not sitting here talking to the masses because I don't have masses on my page. Talking to the person looking back at me, and that's my reflection as much as anything. Grab a hold of what is your true identity and take care of yourself. Don't punish yourself for some perceived mistake you might have made when really you later find out you didn't. Don't give up on yourself. Just keep loving yourself first. First, give yourself oxygen and then give it to somebody else. First, get your health right. First, get your identity. Learn who you are so that when you do reach out and help somebody else, you're doing it completely. You're able to give your best because first you've given yourself your best. Anyway, I know, early in the morning, pretty deep stuff, but it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Grab a hold of that, and that rest falls into place. And when you say, I am, fill in the blank, then make sure that what you are identifying yourself with is true, honest, and worthy of your identity, because that is big and deep. And your identity is not a book long. It's only a couple things, but they are your core. That's what builds you. That's what makes you. The other stuff didn't. Your trophies didn't. Your accomplishments and your failures did not make you. Core values. That's what your identity is. So anyway, this is a long one, but love you. Chew on this for a while and have a great day. Bye-bye.